And so Trump, at this point, having been hit with everything the Democrats and many Republicans could throw at him,
and the media.
And well, the media is simply the puppy dog, pets of the elite, and so the corporations were against him. Everyone in power, the commanding heights of our world, were against him, and yet he overthrew them all.
This is the Friends of History Debating Society. I am Gaius. I'm in Londinium with my dear friend Germanicus. We're philosophizing with cups of wine. It's chilly. We're very far from Rome, however, and warm with the confidence that we're not being overheard by a paranoid emperor. And we turn to philosophizing not about Roman Republic in the first century. It's doing very well. It'll have a very good second century as well. We can see ahead. It'll hit some rough spots in the third century. And then the game is afoot. Well, we're in the comfortable first century, which will be celebrated, we have confidence, for 2,000 years, for containing all sorts of lessons for how to govern when you inherit the Roman Empire. And America inherited the Roman Empire. And we're right now observing America interregnum. The old emperor, Tiberius, who is tired, is leaving the stage. The new emperor, Trump, who is not tired and resembles the Gracchus brothers in that he's a member of the elite who is celebrated, elected, majority elected by the plebes, the non-elite people, to effect a better day. And the question now is, what about the elites that oppose Trump? The senators, the blue senators, the ones with degrees, lots of degrees, lots of approval, lots of bona fides. They even speak in Latin, does the elite team in the 21st century, which is entertaining, but okay, fine. So I was looking through Aesop's fables to entertain myself, and the Greeks do have a sense of humor. I spoke recklessly. It's not my sense of humor. I'm a Roman. We do slapstick, and often vulgar slapstick.
Very vulgar.
That's what Romans think is funny. But the Greeks, they had this idea that you could tell a story and everybody would immediately attach meaning to it, whether you were a child, say under 12, or an adult, say over 70, if you live that long. And I have. And this one attracts me. And I will ask Germanicus to interpret it because I have my interpretation. It's called The Lion's Share, from a new translation in the 21st century by Robin Waterfield. Aesop's Fables, new translation. A cow, a she-goat, and a long-suffering sheep went into partnership with a lion in the forest. When the four of them caught a huge stag, the lion divided up the carcass and said, "As king, I'm entitled to the first portion. The second portion is mine as the tribute you owe me for letting you be my partners. Then the third portion will fall to me because I'm stronger than you. And any of you who touches the fourth portion does so at their peril." And so, by sheer presumption, the lion carried off all the booty for himself. The moral, according to the translation, associating with a powerful man is never safe. This assertion of mine is borne out by the following little fable. And we just read the fable. Now, my interpretation of this is a cow I assign to the American media, a she-goat I assign to the Democratic Party, and a long-suffering sheep I assign to the Republican Party. All three enterprises are looking to make accommodation with the lion, who is Gracchus, who is Mr. Trump. Germanicus, I come to you because you are much more sympathetic to the Greek sense of humor than I am. How do you interpret this lion's share from Aesop's fable, at least 2,500 years old?
Well, I have to say first that within 150 years, the Greeks will own the Roman Empire. So we should be careful in that regard. And the book to read on that is Fergus Millar's A Greek Roman Empire, which really talks about how the empire got taken over by the Greeks from our time, at least a century and a half ahead. But um, Aesop represented a a Hellenic sensibility, at least in the classical era. And the Greeks were always realists. They were hard-hearted realists, as were the Romans. I think that's why the Romans and the Greeks, for all their differences, had such um, a relatively easy accommodation and a very fruitful one. And the fact is that Mr. Trump is the lion, and the lion has what? Lion is seen as fierce, as powerful, et cetera, et cetera. But the lion doesn't always kill those he associates with, especially in Aesop's fables. He relates to them. And so, how does he relate to them? He has power potentially, but he relates to them because he has, above all, authority. And authority is power potential, power that has infected the mind of others. And so the cow, the she goat, the long suffering sheep are to some extent bedazzled by Trump's authority, not by his power, by his authority. And the aura of his authority is a very precious thing. It can be deployed and used, and it is more powerful than any exercise of force, which is what we think of as power. In Greek, it's dynamis. But you don't deploy force. The whole point is to deploy authority. And so Trump, at this point, having been hit with everything the Democrats and many Republicans could throw at him, the
And the media.
and well, the media is simply the puppy dog, you know, pets of the elite, and so the corporations were against him. Everyone in power, the commanding heights of our world, were against him, and yet he overthrew them all. And that is given him, I think, an extraordinary authority. And it's his to use, and of course, it's also his to lose.
Do they think he's going to share?
Well, they don't know. And this is, of course, even the puppet Zelensky has called out Mr. Trump's obvious um, aura as being unpredictable. And this, of course, goes back in recent American lore to Richard Nixon with his approach to diplomacy by being equally unpredictable, or what was it, crazy, insane. He would, you don't know what I could or would or will do. Well, Trump inhabits a far more powerful space than Richard Nixon ever did in that regard. And to the extent that he has unbridled authority, I would have to go back to Teddy Roosevelt in 1904 to find a president who had such a kind of radiance, and he knows it. And his capacity to create his own semi-divine narrative has no real precedent in
All right, let
America.
me ask a series of short questions, and we'll come back to this. One, he takes the first portion because he's king. Do you agree?
Well, he has already consumed that. Yes.
The second portion, they owe him tribute because now they're coming to Mar-a-Lago and saying, we weren't really against you, and now we want to work with you. Does he take the second portion because he's let them be his partners?
I don't think he's going to act like a member of the animal kingdom. I think that when they come as supplicants,
And Zuckerberg's already been there.
the process is one that you would see with a great king, like say Darius or Xerxes, or the mandate of heaven of the Qing emperor. They come to him. Once they come to him, he embraces them, and then the relationship is melded. It's welded. It's locked in. It isn't simply that they're submitting, but in his embrace of them, then they become an extension of him. They then are motivated to represent his interests because he's embraced them and because he will support them.
Third
This,
portion. Third portion. Does
yes,
it fall to him because he's stronger than you are? Does he remind them, you're weak and I'm strong?
again, that gets back to what I was saying. It's not power, it's authority. He isn't threatening. They have accepted his authority. And so it isn't an issue of submission as in a war, unconditional surrender like
You
Japan and
think he
Germany.
shares? Does he share? You're avoiding the question. Does
No,
he?
I'm not avoiding it. It is a form of embrace. And by definition, you share when you are in that sort of relationship, but it is an unequal sharing, obviously. But the main thing is that they have entered into his context of a relationship. In other words, he has framed a relationship in which they are the grateful, subordinate, and absolutely loyal partner. That is how he's operated in the context of orchestrating his first presidency and then regaining the presidency. He never puts it in the context of submission because loyalty and the embrace of a satrap, which is what these people are, he embraces them, and then they are, in a
All
sense,
right. And
related. They're kin.
the fourth portion. Anyone who touches the fourth portion does so at their peril. Are they aware of the fact that they
Yes,
cross him? They
yes.
cross his
This
power.
is the lore. This is the myth that he has built on. And it ended up being serendipitous that he was betrayed by all these people who served him um, deceitfully in his first administration. And as a result, this is understood that this is not a possibility any longer. If you're going to enter into this embrace, then you must be loyal and you must serve loyally, but you will be not only rewarded, but you will, be part of this orbit. This is the way emperors, smart emperors, have acted throughout the time we've had empires, whether it's the Byzantine or the Roman or the Hellenistic. And he is acting that way in so far, a very successful way, because they want to be with him. And that every time they want to be with him and come to him, they
All
they
right.
burnish and increase his authority.
We
That's
can
the key.
disagree. We can disagree, Germanicus.
Okay. I
I,
don't know
I
what
do
you're
not.
talking about.
I do not see it that way. I see it as I take everything.
Well, the way you take everything is through this process, not through a process of forced submission. And this has been the
All right.
problem.
You've made your point. I understand. You're the Greek interpreter. I'm a Roman reader.
Yes. Well,
And when
yeah.
somebody crossed Rome, we pointed the legions in a direction and let them run them down for as long as it takes. That's what we did. Greece doesn't work that way.
No, and you can decide who is the more successful in history
Yes, I understand. So I, I defer to your interpretation for now.
for now.
Germanicus is Michael Vlahos. I am Gaius, John Batchelor. We're in Londinium. We can't go to the theater because of influenza A, which is going around again 60 years later. This isn't some lab-created instrument. This is avian flu via porcine, via cattle. This is the way that human beings catch viruses in the wintertime. So we'll be content with more fables in future because I depend upon Germanicus to help me understand. I'm a Roman blinded reader of fables. This is the Friends of History Debating Society. I'm John Batchelor.